Hey people, welcome back to my Iwaihime stream, and this might be the last stream, and by last stream, because we might actually finish the game today. The last where we left off was sort of an answer arc that Ryukishi likes to do, because we had a lot of reveals regarding what's happening behind the scenes, even the mystical background as to what is causing those supernatural events happening with Kurokami, but I still don't know about the dream parts. I mean, where did those blobs come from? But we know that they are. Oh no! They're gonna explain that they're basically people who inherit the blood that has the suit becomes like spiritually weaker. So they get easily possessed in a way by spirits and all that. So that's all. And we find out that all those the four heroine girls are five, if you like to include the DLC, are all related in some way with Kurokami. So yeah. Anyway, let's get started. Sounds of the sports club practicing the schoolyard after school reached the infirmary. Yet the sound was rendered melancholic in the near empty school. Suzumu and Hinagata were in the infirmary together. Wait, what the hell? No, come back.
どうすればみんなを救えるんでしょう。
Okay, let me adjust. Alright, let me adjust a bit. Nice.
呪いの鈴を打ち破るほかはないわ。
The cursed suit. How do they do that?
それはおそらくススハラ君にしかできないわ。
I mean, the guy trained to figure out how to punch fell. I mean, the OG God himself was like, yeah, you know what? You're so dedicated and all that. I'll give you a chance to, like, you know, have the ability to break through evil and all that. So I don't know. It's just like, you know, like the god basically fucked off, and the evil spirit living within Kurokami is basically the spirit of the doe of the family that died or something. Not the actual god herself. Himself, God, her, him, or whatever. They. I don't know, man. Yet the same god gave, like, his ancestor the capacity to, you know, be one day able to break through the curse, as it seems. Yesterday, Suzumu and Hinagata had used their Sunday to meet up with Suzumu's father. So this is something different from the last chapter. They didn't meet up with his dad. They'd gone to learn about the roots of the Suzuhara, divine tribute style. But more than anything, they wanted to see his power. It went without saying, but with Mr. Suzuhara being the current master of the Suzuhara divine tribute style, he would be far better versed in it than Suzumu, logically speaking. Thus they were hoping he had the power to destroy hauntings, stronger than Suzumu's anyway. Hinagata was also a descendant of the sacrifice to the cursed suit. She would be able to tell if he possessed such power, but unfortunately, it seemed Mr. Suzuhara no longer had it.
人は加齢によって霊的防御力が上がるの。人は若さを失うと霊的なチャンネルがずれてくるとも言えるの。
It's easy for those channels to sync up with spirits during adolescence, which is why even average people can be prone to hauntings, but those spirits gradually tune out as the years pass. Perhaps it could be likened to hearing. People stop hearing spirits' voices the older they get.
ススハラ君のお父さんはきっと若かった頃には素晴らしい力を持っていたと思うわ。
Yep.
でも今はもう
お父さんに助けてもらえばあっさり解決ってほど甘くはなかったわね。その代わり 今の鈴原くんは霊的な意味で言えばまさに脂の乗ったお年頃というわけでもあるわね。
And like they have a reason why it had to be teenagers.
僕にしかできない。
ええ、あなたが呪いのすすを払える唯一の希望よ。霊障を和らげられる人間の存在など私の知る限りの古文書には一度も登場しない。あなたは紛れもなく六神彦の命の呪いが始まってから1000年来のイレギュラー。
Irregular.
僕が1000年の呪いを終わらせる、それが使命のような気がするんです。
鈴原流親善武術、ひょっとしたら本当にそのために存在するのかもしれないわね。
Inagara was currently deciphering the ancient writings she borrowed from Mr. Suzuhara. Tsubakikyo's family, the Harumiyas, were related to the Suzuharas and lived in Susuda for generations. So there was a high probability that the Suzuhara's ancestor had a connection to this land. Every New Year's, it was tradition to punch the temple bell with a Suzuhara divine style tribute style. And the Shintai house in Iwaihime was a temple bell. It all lined up with the legend of the Rokugami Hiko no Mikoto's curse. That's a very long ass name.
私は確信しているわ。鈴原くんのご先祖様はこの地に住んでいたのよ。そして六神彦の命の呪いを解くために親善武術を生み出したんだわ。
僕の家の名字が鈴原。
ええ、やっぱりその名前は偶然じゃないのよ。あなたは六神彦の命の呪いのすすを払うことを使命とした一族の末裔なのよ。
Sorry, my phone was being weird. Suzumu gripped his fist tightly with new profound purpose and resolve.
この学校に生贄の末裔が全て揃い、すすを払うことを名に持つあなたが転校してきた。平安時代頃より始まった呪いなら今のおそらく1000年目。その1000年目にこれだけの偶然が揃う。
運命だと思います。
同感よ。そして1000年目を迎え、トエちゃんの体に封じられたすすももはや限界。呪いのすすが放たれ、この地に恐ろしい災いが降りかかるのか、それとも
僕がこの呪いを終わらせます。まだ未熟でその力はないけれど、必ずそれを身につけてみせます。
Suzumu had borrowed the Susuhara Divine Tribute Style's book of secrets from his father. For the first time in his life, Suzumu was aiming high not because of his training told him to, but because he wanted to. Once he saw that his father had realized Suzumu's Divine Tribute Style has entered the final stage towards completion. His training would become even more special from this day onward. Suzumu would learn the heart of the secret text and perfect his technique.
もちろん鈴原くんに全てを任せて高みの見物なんてつもりはないわ。私も呪いのすすについて様々な古文書から研究を続けてるわ。
It wasn't like the infirmary was always busy. Hinagana would continue deciphering the ancient texts during slow hours. Perhaps she'd find a clue to destroying the suit in them.
これは仮説だけれど、フラッシュバックという心理現象を知ってる？
フラッシュバック？
なんだ？
トラウマ体験が突然鮮明に蘇る現象よ。そのメカニズムはまだ完全には解明されていないけれど、霊障だと仮定すると説明がつきやすい。
Bro, I have flashbacks in the typical basis. Are you saying I'm getting trauma so many times in a day?
トラウマ体験、すなわち心的外傷は心の霊的な防御を全て貫通していたった傷と考えてみたの。トラウマ体験そのものが霊障だとしたなら、それはつまり霊の攻撃が心に至り残り続けているということ。
人の心に霊の悪意が突き刺さったままになっている。
そういうこと。そしてそれが可能してフラッシュバックという霊障を起こし、犠牲者を苛み続ける。何が言いたいかというと、人の心は霊的存在の規制対象なんじゃないかってことなの。
Which is we kind of know, considering what they have in their nightmares.
もちろん仮説に仮説を重ねた先生の空想なんだけれども、呪いのすすもまた霊的な存在ならば、それはおそらく心に寄生していると思うの。
Oh, that explains why every single one of them has like some form of weird daydream ability.
そしてそれは霊的防御を貫通していたった心的外傷に根ざしている。
So basically, all their weird dreams are byproducts of their own personal trauma. I already know Rodriguez is because she was a child star and she got older and she wishes to be back as a child star. What's her name? The childhood friend has a trauma because of her different identity, her past as a delinquent, and she is hiding it away. Who was the first? Oh, the club president. The club president is poor. That's all I have for her. She's poor, basically, and I guess she she thought really hard to have to circumvent being poor and all that. Kurakami, on the other hand, is Kurakami. She is the direct descendant. Now, I don't know what's the kind of trauma that Hinagata Sensei has, so I'm excited for a DLC.
心の傷と呪い
Oh
のすす
yeah,
に
she has a
関係がある
DLC.
ということで
So
す
we're
か。
not yet anywhere close to ending this. Does that mean okay?
心の傷は一般的には時間が癒すと言われてる。それは加齢で霊的防御が上昇するのと一致するわ。私は自分の体験も重ねて考えてみて、呪いのすすは人の心の傷の中に住み着いていると考えているの。つまりカウンセリングによる悩み相談とかでアプローチする方法もあるかもねってことなの。
Is that why you're a doctor? Or, someone in the clinic? Suzume would aim to drive away the cursed suit through the divine tribute style he trained in. Meanwhile, Hinagata would aim to heal the roots of the cursed suit by using psychotherapy.
まるで鈴原くんが西洋医学で私が漢方医学ね。
Isn't it the other way around?
僕は呪いを直接叩き、先生が根底から治す。
そう、挟み撃ちね。
Suzume and Hinagata would surround the curse from both fronts. This is something they never did in the previous chapter. In the previous chapter, it was purely just Suzume doing it. So, yeah, he would fail on the previous chapter. So, in this chapter, at least, Suzume and Hinagata Sensei have joined forces to actually try to deal with it. They swore to fight back against it for the first time in history.
じゃあみんな着席してね。次の日曜日には清掃活動を行います。
おいさっさおいらはやっぱお掃除が一番心が落ち着くね。リリアちゃんは来られるの？やっぱりお仕事？学業も部活も両立できてこそ女子高生アイドルだと思いますので。
Come on, Toei.
トイちゃんも体調が良かったらぜひ来てね。
へへ、俺様のグレートなほうき技が見せられそうだぜ。スハラ？
ごめん、ぼんやりしてた。
On the outside, the LCSC looked harmonious, but all of them were suffering, and it wasn't just them. Many others had suffered in the 1,000 years it had taken to reach this point. I swore I'd put an end to it. I'd bring back their smiles, every last one of them. Ooh. The book of secrets I borrowed from my father didn't have anything so awe-inspiring inside, like one might expect from the name. It was just everything he had taught to me since I was a child. But the basics of the basics were likely secrets in and of themselves.
親善武術は武術なれど戦う術にあらず。
And its fist was not for violence.
カイスは金を割った。だから拳を強く固く鍛えるのが目標と誤解しやすい。違う。金が割れたのは結果であって目的じゃない。カイソは金を割るために撃ったんじゃないんだ。神に報じるために撃った。
But what did that mean in its core sense? Did it refer to the ancient definition when people would present their yields to their gods as thanks for their blessings?
親善武術は怒りで撃つんじゃない。初歩の初歩だ。僕は今まで無心で撃つものだと思ってきた。
But that was part of the process, not the destination. I would advance to a new stage from now
覇
on.
者検証。邪悪を破りて正しきを示す。そしてそれがなされることを神に。
Dedicate the fists, offer thanks, and dedicate. It was strange. Up until now, I'd felt heat in my fists, but something was different this time. I felt heat in the core of my body, like there was a tree growing from my stomach. I knew that I'd taken my first step into a new realm.
ススハラ流親善武術。ススハラ進む。いざ。
Those working in the shrine's office bowed when they noticed Toei returning from school. Toei returned their bows this time, but she clearly wasn't feeling well. She hadn't had any hauntings when she was in LCSC's clubroom with Suzumu. But once he left, they immediately came back with a vengeance. Toei gripped her abdomen and looked down for a while. It hurt from time to time, like there was a dry riverbed in her stomach with giant boulders rolling around. The pains had been coming without notice these days, and they grew worse each successive time. Toei knew from the ancient writings what those pains signified.
限界
Oh
な
no,
のか。
she's dying. The sacrifice who had been subjected to the quadruplet spell had also complained of a pain like a giant boulder rolling in her stomach. The pain likely indicated the suit inside her had hit its limit. But the quintuplet spell had been lost. All she could do was endure the pain, hold off the curse for as long as possible, and have a child as soon as she could.
お嬢さん大丈夫ですか。しっかり。誰か手を。お嬢さんがまた体調を崩された。
大山の鹿さん、ちょっと来ておくれ。鬼がいるから行かれない。お釜をかぶってちょっと来ておくれ。角があるからかぶれ
Just some
ない。
creepy things.
お布団かぶってちょっと来ておくれ。すすで真っ黒かぶれない。あの子が欲しい。あの子じゃわからん。相談しましょう。そうしましょう。
Three human-like figures with antlers danced in the doll ritual tool shed, which was naturally packed to the gills with dolls. Then they came to a sudden stop and quietly sat down.
はてさて、相談とは何か、姉上様。
Another human-like figure with antlers appeared in the center of them.
我のすすは十分にたまり、いよいよ木を迎えたり。
おめでとうございます、姉上様。
おめでとうございます。人鬼どもにこの世の地獄を。
なれどこれしきでは足りぬ。
と申されますと。
我ほどに蓄えしすすをもってしても、兄上様たちのご無念を晴らすにはまるで足りぬ。
A silence descended upon the room. 1,000 years was hardly a short time to gather enough suit to lay vengeance on the humans, even for them. It would have been agonizing to wait longer to extract their revenge, even for the manifestations of the curse.
姉上様一人では
I
あ
think I
り
should
ま
drink
せ
some
ん。
water.
我らが後に続きまする。
我ら4人で夜旅の災いが起こせまする。
Yeah, I should take this time to drink some water.
「それでは手ぬるい。
では姉上様のお考えは。
我らのすすを一つに集めたい。ささやかな災いを夜旅起こしたところでたかが知れたこと。人鬼どもの嘆きを天を越えて轟かせるには、我らのすすをすべて集め、この上なき災いをもたらすより他はない。
お気持ちはわかりまするが、災いの日を待つのは我らも悲願。我らもまたその日を夢見て流らえてきたのでございまする。我らのすす、そうそうは手放せませぬ。なれど我らの目的は人鬼たちを中し、兄上様たちのご無念をわずかでもお慰めすること、姉上様の仰せになることが最もその目的にかなうのであれば、我は悲願の日を姉上様に託すこともやぶさかではありませぬ。それでよいのですか、姉上様。我らは神の呪い、神を慰めるための存在。決して我らが報いを求めてはなりませぬ。そなたは同意できるか。
夜旅の災いよりもすべてをすす抱きし災いの方が兄上様をお慰めできるのならば、我も同意いたしまするが、条件が一つ。
聞こうぞ。
すべてをすす抱きて災いを起こすというならば、あれのすすは無視できません。
陸奥の末裔、鈴原鈴夢のすすか。
What the hell do they mean by that? That's kinda... I don't know.
さようです。陸奥の末裔。あれのすすは強く、濃く、この上なく多い。すべてをすす抱きし、この上なき災いと仰せられるならば、あれは決して 無視できませぬぞ。
あれほどすすが多いものは実に久しい。見逃すにはあまりに惜しい。
無論すすが多いに越したことはない。
鈴のすす、見逃す手はありますまい。
さようです。なれば姉上様、我らすべてのすすを集め災いを起こす役目、すす原鈴のすすを得たものということにされてはいかがか。
いかがなさいますかな、姉上様。我らは神の呪い。誰がそれを振るう役目になったとて、悲願の達成に変わりはありませぬ。それならば張り合いがあるというもの。
What the fuck? This is what the hell?
公平な条件ならば誰にすすだくことになろうともお恨みはいたしません。
いかがか、姉上様。
我に異議はなし。姉上様や。
よかろうぞ。すす原鈴のすすを得た者に我らのすべてをすすだく。
This still sounds so weird.
ありがたや。
Many takes.
面白きかな。久々に胸が高まりまする。だがご油断召されるな。我らが何を恐れると、すす原鈴に油断召されるな。
あれはもう目覚めている。
Wait, what? Why am I supposed to pick? Oh my god! I finally have an option. What is this? What is this? I know the game doesn't actually have the real option. This is just an illusion of choice. Okay, who's my best girl? Okay, who's my best girl? Kanai is interesting. I like how she's crafty and all. You know, I prefer Riria, but I didn't like her story arc. She just kind of has a much more interesting story. Her story was kind of cut short-ish. Okay, so I won't pick Tsubakiko anymore. So it's between Kana and Riria. Who the hell do I pick? It's the senpai or the kohai. Who do I choose? But I don't. I doubt there's like a. This is particular. I'll go for. Yeah, I'll go for yeah. Today's warning periods of idols. You couldn't survive with simply by being cute. The Flower High School. I don't like that. the moment I saw like, oh yeah, her idol show. Okay, we go for Kanai.
なんでもないし、万歳、乾杯。
You know what? I don't like her magical world.
あれは
So I just remembered she had idol shit and she had some fake Alice in Wonderland thing going on, so I'm just gonna go for Tsubakiko. It happened long ago, when I was still a kid in kindergarten. Just like every other little girl my age, I was a proper lady. Okay, this is much more interesting. For me, playing house was perfect recital of when I'd someday be a housewife too. I tried acting even cuter than normal when I was in front of the boys. I'd even get in trouble playing with mom's makeup and cookware sometimes. And didn't mean any harm, of course, because I was dead serious to be the perfect wife. Okay. There you go. You start out with something nice. You don't start out with weird shit. You don't start out with cringe shit. You start out with okay shit.
あなた、おかえりなさい。お風呂にする？ご飯にする？
じゃあお風呂からにしようかな。
お風呂沸いてますよ。背中流してあげるね。
あら嬉しい。先生も椿子ちゃんみたいなお嫁さん欲しいな。
Even when Tanabata came around, my wish was the same. I want to be the perfect wife. But I was a kid. I never thought about it much deeper than that. I wanted to be a wife, but I never even considered that I need to marry someone to How do you be... Okay, never mind. Pretty stupid, huh? That's like the first thing you're supposed to think of.
お嫁さんになりたかったら男の子と喧嘩しちゃダメだぞ。
でもマーク、椿子のスカートめくったんだよ。
それにしても女の子がドロップキックをかますのはな。
I barely remembered it, but apparently I kicked a boy so hard he smashed his head into the edge of a locker, sending him to the hospital. That's so cool. This is why I like this better. Personally, I thought it was suitable price for trying to steal a glance at my panties. I wanted to be a wife, and yet I'd constantly be picking fights with boys back in kindergarten.
だからあなた、乱暴な漫画は椿子の手の届くところに置かないでって言ったでしょ。
Oh, her dad's into edgelord shonen stuff.
いい椿子、お父さんの漫画は真似しちゃいけない乱暴な漫画なのよ。素敵なお嫁さんになりたかったら優しい女の子にならなくちゃ。
Violence
乱
is
暴はダ
bad.
メよ。
パパにもドロップキックとか円髄蹴りとかシャイニングウィザードとかもうやっちゃダメだぞ。
What's Shining Wizards?
第一な、お嫁さんというのは男の子に嫌われたらなれないんだぞ。
Those words were such a shock to me. I'd never realized you needed a boy's approval before you could be You need a boy's approval. I demand you. I can imagine bullying a guy and be like, I demand you to be my husband. Yeah, this is better. This is better. This is better. This is better.
これからはもう少し女の子らしくしなくっちゃね。
男の子とも仲良くしなさい。そうしたらきっと素敵なお嫁さんになれるぞ。
本当？じゃあ私これからはもう喧嘩しない。優しい女の子になる。グッドモーニングモーニング。朝だよ。
Guten Morning. Tsubakiko opened the curtains with a swish. The sun's rays bathed the room in their light.
ほらスズム、いつまで寝てるの？
何事？
朝なの、朝。男子ってこういうシチュエーション大好きなんでしょ？もっと喜んでくれてもいいのに。
Most people would see this as standard girl next door romantic comedy act and wish the two of them dead in envious rage. But Suzumu was normally quite the early bird. In contrast, Tsubakiko was the real night owl. Even when she went to bed, she'd spend 30 minutes screwing around playing Wanyadora, not wanting to waste her MP. I wonder what they're thinking about Wanyadora. What the fuck? Wanyadora was a free-to-play mobile puzzle game constantly being pushed in commercials and ads all over. As such, it had taken a few days before she could adjust to waking Suzumu each morning, like his future wife might.
ずいぶん久しぶりだね。キコちゃんに起こしてもらうのは。起こしてくれてありがとう。
それでね、スズム、朝ごはん作ってみたんだけど。
それは嬉しいな。でも珍しいね。どうしたの？急に。
Last night, she had a dream that brought back all sorts of memories. To her innocent kindergarten days when she sworn to become a perfect wife. The memory was so pure and exciting that before she knew it, she'd woken up at the crack of dawn. So she made a spur-of-the-moment decision to make breakfast for Suzumu. Despite that, he was as composed as ever. Though a girl his age had used her spare key to sneak into his room, he wasn't at least a bit shaken. Subakiko brought the food from her own apartment on a tray. The hallways was rich with the scent of cooking. She must have cooked in her room. Wait, what? She struggled to make her way through the door while her hands were occupied with carrying the tray.
無理に運ばないでキコちゃんの部屋で食べてもいいのに。
乙女の部屋は男子は立ち入り禁止なの。
I mean, considering what her room looks like.
僕の部屋には勝手に入ってくるのに。
いいでしょ、私たち親戚同士なんだから。
Yeah, but there's this. You're hiding your past. Although we saw what happened in the previous route. If he barges in her room, she would demand. She'd like to. She'd instantly confess, and that leads to a bad route ending.
なんかおかしい気がするけど、気のせいかな。
気のせい気のせい。はあ、さ、召し上がれ。
Kinosei. White rice, miso soup, seasoned seaweed, stir-fried spinach, bacon, and eggs. This is still healthier than my own breakfast. Is this why? Is this why there's a lot of unhealthy? Yeah, look at this. Miso soup is already healthy by itself. Then you have seaweed. Then you have stir-fried spinach. I mean, bacon and eggs is normal, but you don't have these two. I mean, white rice is basic carbohydrates, but these three, man, that's so healthy, man. I'm gonna have that shit. The kind of breakfast you'd see in any average household.
ご飯おいしいね。
他には？
お味噌汁もおいしいよ。キコちゃんはお料理上手だね。
This is a dream, right? Because we last knew that Kiko had wasn't really a good of a cook, basically.
他には？
ほうれん草もおいしいよ。僕好きなんだ。
他には？
ベーコンエッグも念入りに火が通ってて美味しいと思うよ。
ちゃんと火通さないと危ないからね。特に気をつけたの。
Kind of burnt. I don't know.
美味しいよ。こんなにバリッとおせんべいみたいに食べられるベーコンエッグなんて初めてかな。
This is the norm in the West, right? Crunchy bacon and well, no, crunchy egg is a Southeast Asian thing. You make sure it's crunchy on the edges, but you have to ensure the yolk is still wet. It's the technique is very easy as long as you have really hot oil. But when I was talking about like crunchy bacon, it shouldn't be as black as that. You know, it shouldn't have some blacks like that. What the hell?
そう？今流行りの焼き方なの知らないの？遅れてる。
Okay, this made me curious about the Riria version and the Kanai version. I think I'll circle back later, but I don't have the patience for idol shit and fantasy shit right now. So Subakiko made hasty excuses with a blush. Suzumu chuckled at the sight. Anyone could tell from a glance that she overcooked the bacon and eggs a little. No, scratch that, a lot. In actuality, Subakiko had borrowed the rice and miso soup and spinach from her mother. In other words, all she actually cooked were the bacon and the eggs. Her room currently reeked of smoke. She actually wanted to make more than that, but the disaster with the bacon and eggs had shattered her spirit. Okay, this answered my weird question about, wait, wasn't she bad at cooking?
お嫁さんって大変だね。
大変だね。
どうして？
毎日旦那様より早起きして朝ごはん作るんでしょ？
Yeah, that should be equal, you know. Sometimes the wife cooks, sometimes the husband should cook. I think that's my ideal setting, you know.
こんな朝ごはん一つ作るだけで青息と息なんて全然だよね。
でもキコちゃんはこうして作ってくれたよ。きっと未来の旦那さんも喜んでくれると思うな。
鈴間は嬉しい。
I like she literally asked that.
嬉しいよ。
こんな情けないベーコンエッグを作るお嫁さん
What
でも
did she mean by this? Oh, is she?
僕のためを思って作ってくれたものならすごく嬉しいよ。そんな朝ごはんを毎日食べられたら毎日仕事を頑張れると思うよ。だからキコちゃんの未来のお婿さんはきっと幸せだと思うよ。
Oh, she's happy because she interpreted that as like that's okay. But you know the way he replies is like, his words warmed Tsubakiko's heart. If her married life were anything like this, she felt she could take on the whole world. If Suzumu were her husband, she believed she could do anything. So she swore to keep up her training so she could someday be the perfect housewife.
花嫁修行に付き合ってくれてありがとう。素敵なお嫁さんになりたいからその
僕でよければいつでも協力するよ。
If you think I'm a good enough candidate, ooh.
ありがとうありがとう。サンキューだよ。
Thank you. Tsubakiko was bursting with joy, and the two of them ate their crispy baked eggs like your average newlywed couple. That's so crunchy. I almost always rode my bike to school, but when Suzumu and I were both riding our bikes, it felt like we were taking a nice romantic trip together. The early bird gets the worm, so they say, and that's precisely how I felt. I was such in a good mood today. I felt like I was one step closer to becoming the perfect wife. I was on top of the world. Everything was going so well. Oh, I don't like this. I don't like this. So why did it all have to go south?
まだ祭るか？
Oh, I really like her delicate voice.
血祭り足りねえか？
A group of delinquents laid sprawled on the ground before springing up and groveling on their knees.
させ血まみれ天女のバキコさんとは知らず。
次にススコーにちょっかい出したら祭る。問答無用で血祭る。
失礼しました。
キコちゃんって強いね。
そりゃそうだぜ。何しろ昔は。
Normally that's the right in the gut to keep him from yapping about my past. But I wouldn't be fooling anyone after that horrendous display just now. Okay, I should probably back up and give some context here. Suzumu and I met up with Asuda in the Iwaihime shopping district this morning. After that, I politely asked them to cut it out. They said some choice words that would provoke any lady's wrath. I couldn't remember a thing after that. Next thing I knew, I was here. And then that, my dream went up in flames. Now Suzumu knew of my darker and sordid past. Things were really awkward between us that day. More accurately, I just didn't know how to approach him after that. So I simply kept avoiding him at every turn, though I knew I couldn't keep that up forever. However patient Suzumu might be, even he had his limits. So when school ended for the day, he grabbed me by the arm.
キコちゃん、朝のことまだ気にしてるの？
Oh, I like how he took the initiative there. Of course, you were the last guy I wanted knowing my secret. Yeah, right. Like he'd ever believe me saying something like that ladylike at this point. Why me?
まあ今さら可愛こぶったってもう手遅れだしね。とほほとほほだよ。
でもかっこよかったよ。同じ学校の人が難儀してるのをみんな見て見ぬふりをして通り過ぎてたのに、キコちゃんは勇敢に声をかけたんだもの。それに助けた彼はキコちゃんの知り合いだったわけでもないんでしょ。だからなおさらキコちゃんはかっこよかったよ。
そう？
うん。あんな剣幕で怒鳴ってる不良を前にキコちゃんはすっごく冷静だったし。
It was more like I lost my shit and gave into the Satsui no Hado though. What the hell is the Satsui no Hado? But apparently it looked like I was totally in control from behind. Anyway, I was glad he was proud of me for standing up for that guy. But that didn't excuse the slaughter that followed.
僕はそれを含めてもかっこよかったと思うよ。普段はおしとやかでも言うべき時やるべき時はやるって女性好きだから。
好き？うん。I never would have expected to find out Suzu's type like this. Did I just trip a romance flag without even trying to? Was I seriously that lucky?
むしろ情けないのは僕だよ。ああいう時は男の僕が率先して出るべきだったのについぼんやりしてしまって。僕がしっかりしていればキコちゃんが体を張る必要もなかったし、何よりそうして一日気にすることもなかっただろうし、それを申し訳ないと思ったこととかっこよかったよってこと。
私のこと幻滅してない？
Why would he?
しないよ。それどころかもっとキコちゃんのこと好きになったよ。うん。強い女性って素敵だよね。
本当に？私をおだてるために適当なことを言ってんじゃないの？
Well, that sounded so cute.
そんなわけないよ。それに僕がキコちゃんに幻滅なんてしてたら一緒に帰ろうなんて誘うと思う
？Suzumu flashed me with a serene smile, erasing any suspicions I may have had of him being insincere. In the end, I was the only one who'd been worked up about the whole thing. Suzumu hadn't been let down a bit. Instead, I gained some serious points with him in a way I hadn't expected. It was like I'd risen from hell to heaven. But I knew I shouldn't have put the cart before the horse like that. It was a bad habit of mine. We stopped by a fast food joint on our way home when I told him all sorts of tales of my edgy years. I expected him to be horrified for sure, but instead he listened with a gleam in his eyes.
かっこいいな。仲間を守るために戦うなんて本当にすごいや。僕も人のために戦えるようにもっともっと精進しなきゃ。
でもいくらなんでもさすがにドン引きでしょ。今でこそこんな可愛い子アピールしてるけど、かつてはとんでもなかったし。
かつてはかつてだよ。今がそうなわけじゃない。それにキコちゃんの武勇伝はどれも相応の理由があっての喧嘩ばかりだったと思うよ。弱い者いじめとか何の意味もなく暴力を振るってたとか、そういうのは一つもなかったと思うよ。
Well, yeah, I was the head of the Bloodstained Angels attack unit. I would never stoop so low. We were vigilantes. We never laid a hand on the innocent. Instead, we were the kind who went around dishing out punishment to hot-headed scumbags who did sink to those levels.
ね。別にキコちゃんは恥ずかしいことをしてたわけじゃないと思うよ。
まあお天道様に胸張って言えることじゃないよね。
今はもう卒業したんだし、もう気にしなくてもいいんじゃないかな。人間誰にだって反抗期みたいなものはあるし、僕だって 親に反抗して悪いことしたことあるしさ。
スズムが？悪いことってどんな？
誰にも内緒だよ。
内緒にする。私とスズムだけの秘密。
Suzumu whispered in my ear.
本当に？スズムが？
だから内緒だって声が大きいよ。ね、それに比べたらキコちゃんのやんちゃ時代だって特別なことじゃないよ。
It made me wonder what he did. I couldn't help but laugh at what a big deal I've been making of all this. I literally roared with laughter, and before long, Suzumu joined in. I've been worrying so much about this whole thing, but telling it all to him took such a load off my chest. Felt like I could even invite him to my room with no further reservations. We continued chatting in the dying sunlight as we walked our bikes home. In hindsight, Suzumu was probably being considerate of me in his own little way. In the end, his smile laid my heart bare. But he also confessed his own shameful past, so we were even. Therefore, I had no reason to be embarrassed anymore. I was like, I don't know, like we already crossed some sort of emotional threshold. Now that I have nothing to hide for Suzumu, I felt I could show him the real me and the truest meaning. Girl would have to be crazy to let a guy like him out of her grasp, so I had to take him for my own. I wouldn't let anyone else have him. Never. I just know that this will always lead to something wrong. I had nothing left to fear. I'd confess to him right on the spot. That way, nobody else could ever lay a finger on him.
何？
The two of us stopped. The shopping district was bustling with activity, yet it felt like we were all alone in the world.
さ、茶化すのはなしで聞いてほしいんだけど。
I faltered at the serious look he was giving me. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't lose heart. I needed to be brave. Oh no, I couldn't do it. I couldn't look him in the eye. It would be like staring at the sun. Thus I shifted my gaze far behind him. What? I could hear children laughing and playing, but I felt I could hear my younger self's voice among them.
椿子はね、素敵なお嫁さんになるの。
Well, isn't that sweet? That's a lovely little dream. You can do it, Tsubakiko. I know you can. Everyone was cheering me on with a big smile. And I wasn't simply telling people about my dream. I also know those were magic words that put smiles on people's faces. I'm gonna be the perfect wife when I grow up. Adults would smile and rustle my hair affectionately whenever I uttered that spell. It made me so happy. May all your dreams be filled with smiles.
どうしたの？キコちゃん。
Kiko had tried to tell me something, but then she saw something behind me and froze up like a deer in headlights. Speaking of deers, they really like to keep the deer stuff here. You know, this is like a bad. This is like a bad pun or something, but it's not a pun. It's just like they just want to remember things about deers and all that. I turned around, but all I saw were the evening crowds of the Iwaihime shopping district. Nothing more, nothing less.
どうしたの？しっかり。
Wait, what the fuck? This is the first time we see her face like this. Kiko gripped her head and moaned. Her eyes were dazed and she was staggering. Could this be one of those hauntings Miss Hinagata had told me about? She said they wouldn't happen when I was around, but perhaps there were exceptions. At any rate, I couldn't leave Kiko out in the middle of the street. I parked our bikes at the side of the road and grabbed her by the shoulder.
彦ちゃん大丈夫？僕がわかる？
She wailed as if in the middle of a nightmare. Her face was pale and clammy with sweat, while her eyes were wide and unfocused. A nightmare had struck in broad daylight. This had to be a haunting. Whatever the case, I had to get her home and let her rest. Then I called Miss Hinagata and asked what to do next. I draped my arm around Kiko's shoulder and hurried on home. Oh shit. Did he do a resonance thing? I got a bad feeling and turned around. It felt as though something sickening was nearby, but there was nothing that fit that description in the crowd. After Suzume and Tsubakiko left the shopping district, an unclammy figure hiding in the darkness of a narrow black alley wriggled about. It was a disgustingly obese and gave off a rank odor, like sweat and rancid sewer. It had small, shadow-like eyes that gleamed ominously. The man's breathing was loud and heavy. Even his nose was stuffed, or that he did it on purpose. Greasy sweat trickled out down the tip of his nose with each fetid and foul exhalation. Wait, there's a legit pedo man here? What the fuck?
つばきこちゃん美人になったね。
What is this fucking pedo?
知ってたし
The man smiled and giggled to himself as if remembering something amusing.
すぐに迎えに行くからね。そしたら今度こそ僕のお嫁さんにしてあげるからね。
Oh, this is the blob guy. I put Kiko to bed and called Miss Hinagata immediately afterwards. Kiko wasn't suffering anymore, but she was dead tired.
それは間違いなく霊障ね。
どうすればいいんですか？
彼女を安全な場所に運んで横にする。で、正解よ。100点満点ね。半分眠った意識で何か危険なことをすることもあるから、意識が戻るまでそばにいてあげてね。
危険なことって？
時に霊が自傷行為をそそのかすこともあるからね。身の回りに刃物がないかだけ確認してちょうだい。
刃物はないですけど、危険物はだいぶ。
Trophies of Kiko's younger past, such as spiked bats and wooden swords, were aplenty here. There could be trouble should worse come to worse, so I gathered them up, wrapped them in a towel, and hid them away.
それにしても、鈴原くんと一緒なのに霊障にやられるなんて珍しいこともあるわね。
僕に宿る覇者の力よりも強い霊に襲われたとか。
鈴原くんの持つ力はかなりのものよ。それを上回る霊なんてなかなかいないと思うわ。
You mean the obese pedo man?
春宮さんが具合を悪くした時の状況がちょっとわからないけれど、ひょっとしたら霊障じゃなくて貧血とか他の理由によるものがあるかもしれないわね。
Isn't this the Shiki thing?
でも霊障の可能性がゼロってわけじゃないですよね。
まあね、誰にもゼロなんて断言はできないわ。
彼女を霊障から救うにはどうすればいいんですか？
霊障は基本的に白チューム。寝ぼけて身に危険が及ばない場所ならば放っておいても大丈夫よ。そのうち目が覚める。そしたらもうケロッとしているわ。
I thought the situation was more dire, but Miss Hinagata made it sound like business as usual. I mean, she had a history in past. She had this all the time. And she didn't even have the Suzumu during her time, I guess. Probably because the hauntings were a regular occurrence for them. That's why she was telling me all I had to do was stay with her until she woke up.
心配してくれてありがとうね。私たちにとってはよくあることよ。
そうですか。 僕の力が弱まってるということなのかな。
そうなの？最近お稽古を少しサボってるとか？
いえ、そんなことはないですけど、僕と一緒なのにキコちゃんを守ることができなかった。それは僕の精進が不足してたからなのかなって。
ならもっともっとお稽古に勤しんでもらわないとね。鈴原くんはシャチホコ部の最終兵器なんだから。
最終兵器。A sigh would relief. Things weren't as bad as they seemed. Miss Angara hung up after telling me to call her if anything happened. I went to go check up on Kiko, only to find her wide awake. She must have woken up while I was on the phone.
どう？大丈夫？
She sat up sluggishly and heaved a deep sigh. I wondered what kind of nightmare she had. Frustration at failing her in her time of need ate away at me.
キコちゃんは霊障にやられてたんだよ。
霊障？
Oh right. Missy Nagata was the only one who knew about them. She said the girls of the LCSC only perceived them as bad
き
dreams.
っと立ちくらみか何かだよ。体調も悪かったんだね。うなされてたんだよ。
うなされてた。
うん。きっと悪い夢を見てたんだよ。でももう大丈夫だよ。
If Miss Nagata was correct, the Kiko was fine by this point. After all, nightmares are vivid right after you have one, but fade from memory in no time.
ごめんね。鈴が介抱してくれたんだね。
こっちこそごめんね。部屋にまで入っちゃって。
The color returned to Kiko's face rapidly, growing red as it beat.
なんで鈴が私の部屋に？鍵はどうして？
キコちゃんの具合が悪いみたいですっておばさんに話したら鍵を。
ばばー！血祭られて
た元気が出てよかった。キコちゃんの武勇伝はもう聞かせてもらってるからね。部屋に驚いたりしないよ。
いずれは見せる気でいたけど、心の準備がまだなのに。まだなのに。
Oh no. Oh no, I remember the previous route. Oh no, it's literally a repeat of the previous route. I could have handled that better. I needed to work on my lack of tact.
じゃあ僕庭で稽古してるから。
稽古？私をほったらかして。
Oh shit, here we go. You should take responsibility.
謝れ！土下座しろ！乙女の聖域！勝手に踏み込んでごめんなさいって言え！お母さんのバカ！
Kiko was so worked up, she wasn't even making sense anymore. But at least it seemed the haunting had subsided. I apologized as I left her room. Oh, it's a good thing he left before he left apologizing. He apologized and left without letting her like say something like take responsibility or anything, because that will lead to the other route after other chapter. The more I devoted myself to my training, the stronger my power would grow. I was sure of it. I had to work harder so that Kiko wouldn't suffer from another haunting. Super Kiko's breathing grew labored again. Beads of sweat rose to her forehead once more. She stood abruptly, rushed over to the door, locked it, and put up the chain. She then ran back into the room, violently shut the curtains. Super Kiko used so much strength to restore one of the latches of the curtain rail. But the sound it made was faint. It scared the living daylights out of her. Oh shit, this is a new look. She never did this in her own chapter, honestly. Tsubakiko clung to the curtain as she nervously gazed outside through the gap between them. All she saw was the same scenery as always, but that wasn't enough to convince her. The room was pitch dark without the sunlight. Tsubakiko threw a blanket over her head and huddled in the corner for the room, leaving the lights off. Terror and anxiety danced across her eyes. She couldn't calm down at all. Just then, she heard a frightful sound. It felt as though it was growing louder by the second. Footsteps, perhaps? It was getting closer and closer. Tsubakiko held her breath hard enough to choke herself as she crawled over to the gap in the curtains. She peeked through and discovered it with the sound of Suzume punching the tree. He was in his dojo uniform, training more intensely than usual. It wasn't footsteps. Tsubakiko heaved a sigh of relief as she plumped down to the floor, but her face showed no sign of ease at the moment. She was in a nervous wreck, frightened by the slightest sound, peeking through the window or doors people over and over again. She took her phone off the desk with the trembling hands. After checking what year it was, she started counting something down with her fingers. And when she finished, she fell backwards as though she fainted. She was lucky her bed was right there. Had she been ever slightly off, she could have smashed her head on the edge of the bed. That was how hard her fall had been. She lay there frozen for long. She started entertaining the idea that she was in fact a puppet. No matter how many ways the terror assaulted her, her brain wouldn't tell her what it thought was so scary. And so she merely continued to tremble in fear, without knowing the source of her fright. Oh, the pedo man.
見つけた。椿子ちゃんのお家。見つけた。
おはよう。具合大丈夫？
ちょっと寝つけなくて。
平気？休んだら？
全然平気。私、こう見えても解禁を狙ってるからね。
そっか。無理はしないでね。
Tsubakiko had lied. She wasn't just a little sleep deprived. In fact, she hadn't slept at all. She'd been far too afraid. By following her daily routine and going to school, she figured she'd start feeling better. But things didn't go so well. Something terrifying has returned. The fear has seized her heart since that night before. She couldn't get out of her mind. It was like she could feel his revolting stare on her 24/7. He tried to remember who he was, but she wouldn't let herself. Regardless, he had told her this the last time they'd seen each other. I'll be back for you, Tsubakiko. I promise. Pedo man.
どうしたの？キコちゃん。
The ugly bastard known as the pedo man.
ハルミヤ、さっきから後ろばっか振り返ってるぜ。
自転車に乗ってるときはあまりそういうのは良くないと思うな。
ごめん。私はいい子だから車が来ないかいつも安全確認を怠らないの。
なんかグレートなことでもしたか？まるで尾行を気にしてるスパイみたいだぜ。
尾行って？
いやそういうのじゃなくて誰かがじっと私を見てるんじゃないかなって思って。ほら、私キュートだしね。ラブレターを渡すタイミングを測ってる誰かの目線かもしれないし。
なんだか微笑ましいね。
チェ、ラブレターなんざ下駄箱にでも突っ込めばいいものをよ。
手渡しだからこそ伝わる心もあるんじゃないかな。
ラブレターはトラップカードだぜ。先回りして仕掛けるのが王道ってもんさ。
Natsuya then went off into a tangent about trading cards, dragging Suzumu in along with him. Even Tsubakiko was a little less paranoid about her surroundings on their way to school. Oddly enough, I was unusually attentive in classes today, though perhaps that was just another form of escapism. Humans can enjoy a slight discomfort or two if it means avoiding something even more dreadful. Someone had been staring at me this whole time. I could feel it. They had been watching me the whole day. No, they were observing me. The way an owner would their pet hamster in its cage. That gaze seemed loving on the surface, but something far more vile and sinister lay behind it. I panicked. The more I thought about it, the harder it grew to breathe. The teacher left an announcement. We had a study hall period, leaving the class in a festive mood. But I couldn't hear any of that usual hustle and bustle. All of a sudden, the classroom door opened. A gargantuan blob of skin-colored meat was standing there. It came literally out of nowhere, without prior warning. The soft, flabby blob reminded me of a repulsively obese stomach. It was so tall and thick that it flooded the whole door. The doorframe shook as the eerie blob pushed its abhorrent self through. The blob grunted the same thing over and over. All of a sudden, I realized it sounded like it was saying Tsubakiko. And when I did, the blob's ominous sounds turned into my name. Oh, the ugly bastard was always. Oh, it's a good thing I chose Tsubakiko's route, because I really didn't feel like doing Kanai's or Riria's after looking the first 5 seconds. Despite Riria being my first choice, and I checked her route and I saw like the concert, an idol concert, I was like, nah, I don't want to deal with this right now. Anyway, my whole body broke out into chills and goosebumps. Icy needles pierced my brain all over. Even my heart froze with revulsion the moment I realized the blob was looking for me. The ugly bastard known as Speedo Man.
何言ってんの？わけわかんない。
The door frame creaked loudly, like it would break apart at any moment. The blob surged into the classroom at that moment and pounded the blackboard. It spewed something like squalid gravy all over it.
自習してろって言っただろう。遊んでいい時間じゃないんだぞ。
Wait, what?
お前ら来年は受験なんだぞ。いつまで気楽なつもりでいるんだ。
It was just a regular fat Japanese teacher. She hates fat people? Are you trying to tell me? I was angry the class had ignored his instructions and used it as an excuse to chat with one another. I gasped for air. My lungs sorely caved. Did I have another daydream?
大丈夫？キコちゃん。
Suzume called out to me from behind and placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. But then, I felt something disgusting and sweaty press against my cheek. I turned around and shuddered when I realized what I thought was Suzumu was instead of a greasy, obese blob. It flashed its flea-infested teeth into a smile, laughing with its rotten breath. The moment I tried to look away, it seized my face with what appeared to be its arm, or fleshly protrusion. Its thick lips closed in on me, and with a sloppy sound, it planted those giant leeches right on my face. When I realized that disgusting thing had given me a kiss, Something in me just snapped.
キコちゃん、具合大丈夫？
Kiko hadn't been looking good this morning, and it seemed she still wasn't doing any better. Fortunately, we didn't have club today. Even if we did, I would have asked Kiko to take the day off.
大丈夫だよ。そんな具合悪くない。
She put on a brave face, but there were bags under her eyes. And that wasn't the end of it. She kept cowering from something. Just now, she reacted to the sound of a student rolling their bike out to go home as though glass had shattered nearby. Oh my god! It's a good thing I did the Subakiko route, because this deals with the problems I had with her initial chapter.
国語の時間が終わってから顔色が悪いよ。
授業中にぼんやりしてて変な白昼夢を見ちゃったみたいで。
Oh shit. So she faced another haunting. Poor Kawaiso. Just how much did she know? All of them suffer from the hauntings when I wasn't around. I had to save them. Though I wasn't sure exactly how to do that. Regardless, I clenched my fist and made a bow.
その夢が随分と気持ち悪かったみたいで。
かわいそうに。それでずっと気分が落ち込んでたの？
まあ、そんなところ。
Just like dreams, hauntings probably had a varying degrees of vividness, so it was highly likely that one she had during Japanese class, where's the word class, was very detailed. Most dreams are forgotten upon awakening, but this one had appeared to be an exception.
どんな夢を見たのか知らないけど、夢は夢だよ。
そうだよね。
ましてやそれが楽しい夢でなかったなら、さっさと忘れちゃうのが一番だと思うけどな。
そうだね。
I felt so bad. It was really getting to her. I had to find a way to lift her spirits.
そうだ、キコちゃん。
何？
She seemed surprised by my sudden shift in attitude. That might be a little pushy, but I had to cheer her up.
帰りにさ、ゲームセンターでも寄ってかない？
Oh no.
何突然。
ほら、前にキコちゃんがナツくんと一緒にやってたゲーム、なんて言ったっけ？
黄金無双曲ダブルクロスゴールデンパニッシャー SR2 デラックスターボ？
Golden Fantasia. This is the fighting game of Umideko.
そうそう、そんな名前のやつ。ナツくんと楽しそうに遊んでたんで、僕も一緒にやれたらなって思ってさ。キコちゃん上手だったから教えてもらいたいなって。
いいけど、できたらまた今度がいいかな。
そんなこと言わないでさ。頼むよ、キコちゃん。
People want to be alone when they're feeling down, but that never makes them feel any better. A helping hand is the best medicine. After all, I got a bit aggressive with my offer. Kiko finally gave in, and though she barely looked up for it, she always had fun at that arcade. I was sure this would be just the ticket to cheer her up. We rode our bikes and headed off to the arcade in front of the train station. Suddenly, Kiko stopped her bike and stared down at an alleyway.
どうしたの？
あそこ。
I did as asked and saw a plumpy older man crouching in the shadow of the alley, fiddling with his bike. Apparently, the chain had gotten loose and he was trying to fix it. Kiko probably thought he had fallen and hurt himself.
大丈夫ですか？手伝いましょうか。
やっぱ自転車屋じゃないとダメだな。
The man sighed and started pushing his bike away. After we said our goodbyes, I headed back to Kiko.
大丈夫？
うん、大丈夫そうだったよ。怪我をしたわけじゃないみたい。
怪我をしたの？
怪我はしてないよ。チェーンが外れただけだよ。
チェーン？
Kiko took another anxious look down the alley. The man had vanished into the crowds while we were talking.
行こう。
I'm pretty sure she was thinking about something else. because she is now looking for any obese guy. She's a fat hater. We started pedaling again. The arcade was close.
あれなんだろうすごい人だかり
A large crowd of bikes and excited people were stationed in front of the
自
arcade.
転車止められるところあるかな隣のお店の前とかに止めるわけにはいかないからねちょっと見てくるよ
I couldn't tell if there was a spot to park with all those people there, so I went to scout ahead. The crowd was gathered around some drum game near the front of the arcade. The players were wearing fashion straight from big cities, and everyone was either filming or taking photos of them. Maybe they were famous gamers or streamers or something. This is 2017. Were there a lot of streamers at that time already? Anyway, whatever the case, they seemed like they mastered the game. Well, I mean, PewDiePie started doing his thing around 2014, 2015. Yeah, that sounded right. But only the front was crowded. The rest of the arcade was the same as always. I quickly found 2 spots for our bikes.
大丈夫そうだよ
大丈夫そうって本気で
自転車も止められるし混んでるのは入り口だけだったよ
Oh man, it's like the level of panic she is getting is, man, she's very paranoid. I mean she is suffering from some weird nightmare stuff right now, so it's totally understandable. What was Suzumu thinking? How could he say it was okay after seeing that? Was he blind? The arcade entrance was flooded with blobs and dripping juices, wasn't it? And the inside was bursting with these giant, disgusting blobs. You could see something like blood vessels on their skin, wriggling like earthworms from time to time. They vibrated all over as though they spotted me and were gesturing me over. Suzumu couldn't see them. He didn't see the blobs speaking out from the shadows, moaning again and again for me to come over.
どうしたの
Oh shit, her perspective is much more fucked up.
ごめん私先に帰るね
キコちゃん
Suzumu couldn't see them. No, no one could. Only me. Suzumu couldn't see the blobs at the arcade, and he hadn't seen the blobs in the alley before either. That was why he had been saying some nonsense about a chain. I left Suzumu and my bike behind and broke into a dash. I figured running would get me out of there faster than taking the time to get on my bike and pedal away. After all, this whole town was crawling with those things. The blobs popped out one after another. Alleys, shops, shutters, outdoor units. They were all coming from everywhere. And they were all calling my name. They're all pedo men. No, this is just a manifestation of her paranoia to the intense level, because it's now starting to project onto other people. Calm down. I had to calm down. There was no way those things were actually there. They had to be another one of those terrible daydreams I always had. I couldn't let it affect me. I couldn't. There you go, the ugly bastard known as the Beastman. An abhorrent pair of eyes peeked from behind cover. Their gaze never left Tsubakiko's back as she ran. This is some next level pedo man.
今度こそお嫁さんにしてあげるからね。
Oh shit. She spoke to dude in the park. He slurped his saliva as he spoke with those repulsive words. He got drool drains stained all over his filthy shirt. His unkempt, obese appearance somewhat resembled the blob Subakiko feared.
街もずいぶん変わるな。でもパパ、ちゃんと約束通りに
I'm pretty sure it's because he got arrested or something.
パパ、9年間のお仕事大変だったけど。運命の愛、ずっと貫いて。
I knew it. She got sexual. Maybe she. No.
9年間、僕の帰り、待っててくれたよね。待たせて。すぐ迎えに行くからね。
The man's ominous figure faded into the darkness as he guzzled down his saliva again. All that was left was the rank stench of sweat. Pedo man. I was okay. Ordinary people would doubt their sanity at this point, but I was used to this. I was more prone to daydreams than the average person, so this was fairly common for me. I could forget about them anytime with blaring heavy metal from my headphones and immersing myself in the music. Seriously, what was I so scared of? Was I really freaking out over a daydream of blobs popping up? How ridiculous. Was Subakiko Harumiya a coward? What a pathetic display from the former leader of the Bloodstained Angels attack squad. I was scared of that blob, of that fatso, of that man. No way in hell. Nice. I howled the aggressive lyrics to spur myself onward, smash my sweet innocent self to pieces. I wasn't brought into this world to be coddled like stuffed animal. Quit hiding behind yesterdays. Don't fuck with me. Don't fuck with me. Don't even look at me, you filthy men. I was getting fired up. Rage was surging through me. Where were my trusty partners, my bats? I'd waste any dumb bastard who messed with me. Huh? Huh? Why weren't they at their usual spots? What? What the hell? They were gone! But I hadn't even touched them! As I looked around frantically, I accidentally yanked the headphones toward partway out of the jack. The music switched from the headphones to speakers, and the blinding passion burning within me was snuffed into cinders in the blink of an eye. Oh, I hate that when that happens. What was this? How did it happen? I always left my partners on display, so why were they gone? Upon closer inspection, I realized my other trusty partners had also vanished from their places. When did it happen? How long has it been? Huh? They were there this morning, weren't they? Yeah, they should have been, right? They should have been there yesterday. So why were they gone? All of a sudden, I could smell sweat. It wasn't mine. It wasn't sweat you got for running around. It was a foul, rotten stench. It felt like I smelled this particular week before. But how long ago was it again? It was pretty far back. When I was still a little girl. Right. It must have been 9 years ago. The ugly bastard known as the obese man. A wordless scream burst out of me as I sunk to the floor, unable to get air. He had gone into my room while I was out, and then he squirged through it. Arg. Kiko had suddenly gone home by herself at the arcade yesterday, forcing her to come along when she wasn't putting up to it must have rubbed her the wrong way. She didn't come down for dinner. She didn't respond to my texts either. Apparently, she told her mother that she wasn't hungry because she wasn't feeling well. Miss Harumiya was optimistic, figuring she got a cold or something. If only it were that simple. Maybe it was because I seen her getting assaulted by a haunting in person the other day. But I was racked with worry over Kiko, so I figured perhaps it would be best to consult Miss Hinagata.
僕だけど、キコちゃん、起きてる？
I pressed the doorbell to Kiko's apartment. I quickly heard someone shuffle over to the entrance and the door opened. Kiko was there, already changed in her school uniform.
おはよう。
Oh no, she didn't get some sleep again. Speak up getting some sleep. Maybe I should get some sleep or I turn up like Kiko. When I wake up, every person I see is a blob. Shit! Her face was haggard. Come to think of it, she mentioned the other day before that she hadn't gotten much sleep. Did she not get any sleep at all last night? Which means she hasn't been sleeping for 2 days straight.
でも横にはなってたんだよ。だから大丈夫。
無理しないで休んだ方が。
いいの。家より学校の方が安全だと思うから。
え？
学校ってほら大勢いるじゃない。
I have a bad feeling every people she would see in the school is now ugly blobs.
変な人も手出しにくいだろうし。
What was Kiko talking about? Her features were shaped by exhaustion. Her eyes had an odd glint to them. I'd never seen a look like that from her before. For a moment, I considered forcing her to rest if I had to, but Kiko probably wouldn't have listened. However, this was convenient for the both of us. I could bring her to the infirmary to see Miss Hinagata right away. If it was just a cold, she just had to rest and I'd have a peace of mind. If it wasn't, then Miss Hinagata would be the one I could turn to anyway.
キコちゃん、皆勤賞を狙ってるんだったっけね。
うん。だから休めないの。
でも念のため保健室で雛形先生に見てもらおう。
本当にただの寝不足だってば。大丈夫だよ。
I can feel the suffering from her voice. Oh, this voice actress is doing well. I didn't believe her. Normally, she looked me straight right in the eye, yet she avoided glancing at me this whole time. But I knew worrying about it wasn't going to solve anything. I just had to get her to the school infirmary and leave the rest to Miss Hinagata. We descended the stairwell and straddled our bikes. This was Suzumu. Suzumu, I could tell. So as long as I kept a firm grip on my mind, I could actually recognize him as Suzumu. But this whole time, I'd see him as a blob. That couldn't be. My eyes had to be playing tricks on me. That or I was back in the same horrible daydream. Oh my god, I know what's gonna happen to her. Oh my god, this is gonna get worse than I thought. So I knew it. She started to see everyone's blobs, and at one point she'll just crack and get something and try to hurt someone. If I focused hard, Suzumu appeared the same as always. However, if I took my eyes off of him for a second, he turned to a blob again. Is there something wrong?
何かある？目やにでもついてるかな？
そんなこと全然ないよ。ジロジロ見ちゃって。
Jiro Jiro. If I let my guard down, not only did I see blobs, but I could also smell sour sweat. But at least Suzumu was fine. I could perceive him as his usual self so long as I honed my senses. The world was filled with those blobs, juices, and the rank stench of sweat. I knew the truth. There's no way there were blobs. All of them were ordinary people. They had to be. But since this morning, nearly everyone looked like those hideous flesh beasts. And I was probably the only one who saw them like that, because no one else was panicking. No one else found anything strange. I was the only one who could see this messed up world of meat. The Iwaihime shopping district was full of bikes racing to school or the train station, and nearly all of them appeared as blobs to me. Me alone. The foul odors they spewed were like open garbage cans on a hot summer day. Oh man, you don't want to be in NYC during summer. I almost threw up several times, but it wasn't like I saw every single person as blobs. It seemed it only applied to girls and young boys looked normal to me, but all the other men appeared as hideous blobs.
Ohayo, Natsuki.
Oh, Susara! Great morning!
Suzumu really was the only exception to that. The hideous blob we called Natsu was apparently Atsuta. Unlike Suzumu, he only appeared as a blob no matter how hard I steeled my mind. Suzumu, me, and that disgusting bag of meat riding a bike, headed for school like every other day. The thing would talk to me from time to time, but I couldn't bring myself to look at it. Though I knew it had to be Atsuta, I couldn't bear it. But that was just because my eyes, brain, or heart had gone mad. So I resisted the urge to break out into cold sweat and fought my hardest to endure this horrific daily life. Even amidst all of this, it was still safer at school. He couldn't lay a hand on me while I was there. But what was I going to do after? I could barely stand the foul stench of the blobs as it was. Girls and blobs rode their bikes through the school gate one after the next. I felt like I was gonna lose my mind. This was the first time I had a daydream this awful. I needed to wake up or I'd go insane. By the time I parked my bike, my mind had been scrambled by madness and the foul stench. If someone told me this was hell, I'll believe it. Still, this was better. They were just blobs. They had no intentions of harming me, so I had to endure. But I was reaching my limit. I managed to hold back so far, but the bike lot was poorly ventilated and filled with the acrid reek of the blobs. I gripped my stomach as it churned, but it didn't help. I couldn't stand it any longer. In that moment, everything I had been holding back to this point finally broke loose. At first, I had no idea what happened. Kiko must have thrown up or something. She had the most unfortunate luck of getting vomit on the delinquent's clothes. Naturally, he was furious and grabbed Kiko by the collar. That act had likely invoked her wrath. Kiko headbutted him right in the face, sending blood gushing from his nose to his chin. Enraged, the delinquent lunged for Kiko, but he headbutted him again. His blood splattered on Kiko's face, leaving blotches behind. The nearby girls screamed when they finally noticed the brutal fight.
何しやがったこら! 構わねえ! ぶっ殺しちまえ!
Oh yeah, I wanted to see this full psycho face. Oh my god, this is the best CG. Thank god I chose the Kiko route in the end. This wasn't a scream. It was a war cry. Kiko's face was a terrifying visage of indignation and repugnance. I wanted to stop the fight right away, but I couldn't get through the ring of confused students surrounding them with their bikes. Oh my god, she went full psycho, she went full mad. I love this. I love what I'm seeing right now. The chaos spread and it intensified in that time. At first, the delinquents were reluctant to get in a serious fight with the girl, but all such reservations faded once they saw merciless depths of Kiko's berserker state. I knew Kiko had fighting experience, but this was more like a rampage of a rabid animal. There were no human dignity to be found in any of this violence. She attacked like a panic beast who had been pushed against the wall by hunters, like a cornered rat fighting back. Thank God. Fuck this guy. I love this. I love what I'm seeing. This is the best. This is the best, boy. Kiko full psycho is the best.
やべえよこいつ。
やべえ。
頭いってるぜ。早く先生呼んでくれよ。
This was no fight. She struck, clawed, and relentlessly bit the delinquents. She was probably trying to bite their ear offs. It was like she was fighting for her life. Kiko was a frenzied animal driven by fright. This was right. This wasn't rage. It was terror that spurred her. Kiko didn't do this because she wanted to. She'd lose herself in some kind of fear. I finally made my way through the ring of bikes.
Kiko-chan, やめるんだ.
Kiko howled at the top of her lungs. She completely lost sight of herself. She trampled over a bike as she charged at me. Oh my god! Oh my god! I love this. I love this look. This is the best. This is the best route. I slightly asked for her forgiveness and then... Though my fist was not for fighting, I buried it deep into Kiko's soft abdomen. I winced. It must have hurt a lot. Kiko grabbed her stomach as she fell to the ground, moaning with pain.
ごめんね、Kiko-chan. 仕方なかった.
The pedo man known as the Beast Man is back in the menu, boys. A group of muscular teachers finally showed up. To them, it must have looked as though delinquents had gotten into a personal quarrel that Kiko had been caught in. Yeah, fuck you, show.
ハルミヤが急に噛みついてきたんすよ。嘘じゃねえっす。いいからこっち来い。
I like how they get scot-free only because they had prejudice against delinquents.
ハルミヤ、大丈夫か。
待って先生。
あ、雛形先生。
Miss Hinagata's intuition was right. She thought the same as me. At this moment, Kiko was a feral beast who would attack anyone who carelessly approached her, even a teacher.
ハルミヤさん、私がわかる？怖がらないで。落ち着いて。
雛形先生、よかった。
ごめん、鈴原くんも来ないで。
はい。
As sad as it was, Kiko would attack me too if I got close. However, at least it seemed she bore no hostility towards Miss Hinagata. The two of them said a few words to each other. Before long, Miss Hinagata helped Kiko to her feet and headed for the infirmary. The delinquents were taken away by the stern-faced teachers, asserting they were victims all the way. All that remained were falling bikes in the concrete floor, splattered with blood. The teachers were dazed at first. The students were dazed at first, but eventually all burst out into a conversation. The teacher shouted at them to hurry to their classes.
さすが特攻隊長。グレートだね。
Despite his rousing words, Natsu had grown pale as well. According to the rumors, some of the delinquents had taken to the hospital just to be safe. Kiko didn't return to the classroom even by lunch break. I heard she'd been confined to the guidance counselor's room, given that she was involved in that brawl. The classroom was abuzz with rumors about the onslaught this morning, as well as stories of Kiko's past. Missy Nagata called for me during lunch. There was plenty I wanted to ask her. It seemed Kiko had regained her sanity earlier that day. You know, I think she only gained her sanity because she got gut punched by Suzumu. And Suzu's, wholly attack cleared her mind. So he had to. Now he has to punch her just to make her normal again. But she insisted she didn't remember the fight at all. However, there was no doubt she started the fight and injured multiple delinquents. What normally would have been a fight between two parties had turned into a one-sided slaughter. Kiko had gotten through with a few scrapes. On the other hand, the delinquents were left bleeding. It seemed the stories of them being sent to the hospital were true. Fortunately, they all kept their silence. They're probably too proud to admit they'd all been so thoroughly beaten by a girl.
先生方の話を漏れ聞く限りでは、このまま自宅謹慎になるかもね。
今のキコちゃんはしばらく家で休んだ方がいいと思います。先日の霊障の時から少し様子がおかしくて。
そのあたりの話、詳しく聞かせてくれる？
はい。
I told Missy Nagata all about Kiko's abnormal behavior recently. About how even though her haunting ship ended when she woke up from her daydream, its effects still lingered.
やっぱり僕の力が落ちているのでしょうか。
ススハラ君の力はこれまでの長い修行の積み重ねで培ったものよ。仮にススハラ君がここしばらく修行をサボっていたとしても、そうそう衰えるものではないはずなんだけど。それにあなたが修行をサボるわけもない。そうでしょ？
はい。
だったらススハラ君のせいじゃないわ。自分を責めないで。ススハラ君の想像通り、これは稀にある数日間尾を引くたちの悪い霊障かもしれないわ。私も昔覚えがあるし、シャチホコ部の他の子にも稀にあったことよ。他の子たちはたまたまこういう大騒ぎにはならなかったというだけのこと。
キコちゃんは今一人だと思うんですけど、大丈夫でしょうか？
私からお母さんに連絡して事情を話しておいたわ。心を許せる家族と一緒にいて、しばらく休養を取ればだいぶ良くなるはずよ。
According to Missy Nagata, a power like the one I'd obtained through training in the divine tribute staff dwelled in family bonds too. Parents' love for their child could help ward off the evil spirits as well. Miss Harumiya had told Missy Nagata that Kiko had regained her calm and was now resting peacefully in bed. I found it hard to believe after witnessing the berserk state of hers, but I was a bit relieved. It seemed Kiko's mother was staying with her too.
受験へのストレスと恐怖から追い詰められて、そういうストーリーにしておけば関係者はとりあえず納得してくれると思うわ。学校も当事者の受験への影響を気にして大ごとにはならないように終わらせてくれるそうよ。
そうですか。よかった。
私の責任よ。鈴原君から連絡があった時点でもっと何かできていたと思うわ。いつもの霊障などと軽々しく考えてこんなことになってしまった。取り返しのつかないミステイクよ。
僕にだって責任はあります。もっと早く喧嘩を止めることができていたら。
私の責任。鈴原君は気にしちゃダメよ。彼女が少しでも不利益を受けないように全力を尽くすわ。もし鈴原君も力を貸してくれるなら、これ以上みんなが春宮さんの話をしないようにしてあげてくれる？
もちろんです。
私の話はそれだけよ。くれぐれも気を病まないようにね。彼女のためを思うならしばらくの間気を使ってあげて。
はい。
さて、知り合いに根回しの電話をしなきゃね。 穏便に済ませるようにいろいろとこれから大人の駆け引きがあるの。
はい。それでは失礼します。
I rose to my feet. From now on, I could only pray Kiko's emotional scars healed as soon as possible. A haunting. To think she, no, they had been suffering for something so painful all these years. I was supposed to have the I was supposed to have the power to save them. So much for that. I felt pathetic. I refused to let myself simply watch from the sidelines. I needed to train even harder, so that they would never suffer like this again.
そういえば先生、
何？
今年で9年目って何か心当たりありますか？
Misty Nagata's smile instantly dropped. Even I didn't know what it meant. I only heard Yukiko say that after I punched her. I brought it up to Misty Nagata in hopes she might get more out of it than me.
今朝、キコちゃんがそんなことをつぶやいてた気がして、9年目ってなんだろうって思いまして。
Misty Nagata's face grew paler by the moment. She suddenly checked her calendar as though she remembered something.
平成年度から6、7、8、9年目。まさか。
Misty Nagata crossed her arms in contemplation. I wanted to know what she was thinking, of course, but her eyebrows were so furrowed that I couldn't find the right time to ask.
9年目。ね。模範囚は数ヶ月早く刑期が終わることもあるそうだし。
I knew it. He was a literal beetle man.
ひょっとすると、も
う。何の話ですか？
これは霊障じゃないかもしれない。
どういうことですか？
Misty Nagata crossed her arms again. After pondering for a minute, she finally broke her silence. The grim look in her eyes made it clear I was to repeat this to no one.
ハルミヤさんには本人も思い出したくない。
Oh my god, she did meet a pedo man. Fuck this game. The park was all you can play at Paradise for children, their own personal kingdom. The swings were thrilling and they loved the slides. The sandbox was their canvas to craft castles and cakes right out their dreams. Buckets and shovels their paintbrushes. This particular park was the biggest one in the area, and there were always lots of children playing there. It wasn't just kids, of course. The place was also used by joggers, elderly folks taking a rest, and office workers on break. So the children played merrily as adults watched over them. The parents could also let their children play with each other, little to fear. So there was nothing odd about grown-ups sitting on benches watching the children play. Furthermore, the adults who frequent the park were recognized and accepted by children. The Beast Man was such an adult. He was likely in his late 20s or early 30s. He had unusually childlike eyes and would always come to play with the children in the same worn-out gray sweatshirt. He was fond of playing with girls and particularly enjoyed playing house with them. The girls wanted to play the part of the mother or older sister, but no one was lining up to play the father, so that Mr. Daddy took the lead and played that role for them. They all loved him. Fucking pedo man! I didn't expect they literally had a pedo. I was making a joke that this guy was a pedo, and straight up, he is a pedo. Fuck this game. Shit. I wasn't expecting this. I was just joking. He's a pedo, man. He's a little pedo. What? There was a snack store near the park. Walking over the kids that sold plenty of snacks for 10 yen. They ranged from salami flavored to salad flavored, even fish flavored. Most Japanese children had snacks like that at least once or twice. Mr. Daddy would often buy a bag full of candy and give it out to the children in the park. That was why they all loved him.
パパ、おかえりなさい。
た ただいま、つばきこちゃん。ほーら、素敵なお嫁さんはパパが帰ってきたらお帰りのチューを
This
するん
is
だ
straight up pedo shit.
おかえりのチュー。
The young girl kissed the man on the cheek. This is so uncomfortable. He reciprocated with a kiss from his own thick lips.
つばきこちゃんにもチ
I
ュー
can't take this shit.
パパくちゅごたい。
Oh my
ペロしたよ。
god. The man moved his mouth away, leaving a trail of saliva on the girl's cheek. But the little girl, who knew nothing of malice at that time, didn't find that disgusting at all.
つばきこちゃんの将来の夢は素敵なお嫁さんになることだよね。
私、素敵なお嫁さんになるの。
じゃあパパといっぱいおままごとで練習しないとね。いっぱい練習しないと素敵なお嫁さんにはなれないんだよ。
つばきこ、いっぱい練習するね。パパ。
To little girls, playing house with daddy was a game just as much as it was a way to learn about domestic responsibilities. But of course, that man was a scum who took advantage of their innocence to make those girls do whatever he wanted. Tsubakiko was the cutest among the girls her age. That was why the man set his eyes on her. Through candy and playing house under the name wife training, the man grew closer and closer to Tsubakiko. Having an adult friend also made her feel superior to her peers. What's more, she believed that if she continued training to be a wife, her dream would come true. Eventually, Tsubakiko started— oh my god! Oh my god. Oh man. Tsubakiko started visiting the man's apartment. It was there that her full-blown wife training began.
愛し合う夫婦はこんなことをしてるんだよ。
Oh my god.
こんなことをしてあげると素敵なお嫁さんって褒めてもらえるよ。
Oh my god.
ほらほら、くすぐったがっちゃダメだよ、つばきこちゃん。
What the fuck?
つばきこちゃん、僕のお嫁さんになろうよ。つばきこちゃん、つばきこちゃん。つばきこちゃんはここになってるだけでいいからね。いいからね。つばきこちゃん。
どうしたの？落ち着いて。怖い夢を見たのね。かわいそうに。
Tsubakiko fell back on her bed and collapsed in agony, clawing at her head. It was like she was trying to tear out her own brain. Tsubakiko's mother had seen her like this 9 years ago. She knew painfully well what emotions were tormenting her daughter.
休刑10年、判決は懲役9年。
Fucking pedos.
そのクソデブは最後まで彼女とは友人同士で
I don't think so. The mere fact they were inside a bat together was already like. No, the mere fact he played with children like that was already a point of no return.
グダグダと上告してなおも罪を認めず確定に随分と時間をかけたみたいよ。その上幼い春宮さんは警察などで何度も男にされたことさせられたことを口述させられたわ。それがどれほどヘドの出ることだったか。
Miss Nagara trembled with rage I'd never seen from her before. I was utterly stunned by what I heard, so much I even forgot to feel anger.
彼女にとって一番ショックだったことは信じていたものに裏切られたことだった。された仕打ちがじゃない、彼女の純真な気持ちが裏切られたことが何よりも彼女を傷つけた。
It was childish, but she earnestly wished to become the perfect wife. She trained to make that dream come true, and Mr. Daddy had generously offered his assistance. Some of it had been strange, unusual, and nigh unbearable, but it was all in order to become the perfect wife. No matter how repulsive his actions objectively were, she believed those were wonderful times that would help her to fulfill her dream. Then one day, the adults suddenly barged in and flipped everything she believed in right on its head. Her parents and the police consoled her every time they met and spoke ill of Mr. Daddy. At first, Tsubakiko didn't understand any of it, but gradually, she came to understand what had been done to her. At that moment, all negatives and positives in her world were inverted. I'm pretty sure she was sexually assaulted or something. God damn, I never expected this from a Rikishi 07 kind of thing. I mean, I kind of expect, yeah, he kind of steered away from these kinds of topics. No. Okay, in Umineko, there might be some implied, but this one is straight up, they just said, oh, she raped. She was, no, actually, I don't know if she got raped or something, or I'm pretty sure there was some sexual or something, because they were in a bat, and that's what came out of that scene, and
かわいそうにまだ忘れられないのね。
男なんか死ね、みんな死ね。
Oh man, this reminded me about that was that previous season or last season about girls who want to become like theater actors, and one of them was sexually assaulted when she was a child, so she's holding the same view right now. Okay.
周りにとってはほんの数日でも彼女にとってはあまりに長い時間があったのだと思う。彼女の心は彼女の身を守るために呪わしいその記憶を封じ込めることを選んだの。
封じ込めるというのは
She has selected memory, bro.
言葉通りよ。ある日を境にケロリ彼女はその日以前の記憶をきれいさっぱり失ってしまったの。心が彼女の記憶を封印したのね。
I think I'm gonna sleep at 4, so I have 30 minutes.
傷つけないよ。
From that day onward, she was liberated from her suffering, but then she changed completely, as if denying everything she'd been up to that point.
簡単に言うと、著しい男性への嫌悪、恐怖の裏返しの攻撃性。彼女は次第に学校で衝動的に激しい感情をむき出しにして、それはどんどんエスカレートしていって、
エスカレート。
かつての 敵なお嫁さんから。
キコちゃんはそれで不良グループに。
彼女の激しい攻撃性はさぞや歓迎されたでしょうね。やがて彼女は彼女らの言うところの伝説、武勇伝を次々に打ち立てていって。
Her innocent wish had led to the vilest betrayal from a man she trusted. So she fought to bury that sorrow and fury within her heart. Kiko's room probably looked a little disturbing to people seeing it for the first time, but it wasn't. That room was a testament to the strength and determination Kiko had wielded to crawl out of the dark depths of sorrow.
その彼女が高校入学を境にすっぱりと足を洗い、再び素敵なお嫁さんになるという夢を掲げた。それがどれほどたくましいことか、鈴原くんならわかるわよね。
All I could do was look to the ceiling and fight back the boundless rage and sadness that threatened to spill from my eyes. She'd chosen to trust and return the dream she had snatched from her to the child once again.
強さ。
Now I understand what those words meant. This year was the 9th year. How terrified she must have felt remembering this was the year that his sentence ended.
霊障なんかじゃない。
ええ、おそらくこれは霊障じゃない。彼女の忘れることのできない心の痛みなのよ。
I understood now. Kiko was afraid of that man returning once he was released from prison. That fear was what truly plagued her.
その心の痛みをキコちゃんは突然思い出した。
Recalling it out of the blue for no reason sounded too good to be true. Kiko was a strong girl who faced the pain in her heart over several years. It was hard to believe she suddenly reverted to fear without any trigger.
まさかと思うけど。
その男を見かけたとか。
Oh shit. Oh, that's
どうした
true.
の？キコちゃん。
We had a flashback just now?
ごめん。
春宮、さっきから後ろばっか振り返ってるぜ。
自転車に乗ってるときはあまりそういうのは良くないと思うな。
ごめんごめん。私はいい子だから車が来ないかいつも安全確認を怠らないの。
なんかグレートなことでもしたか？まるで尾行を気にしてるスパイみたいだぜ。
無理しないで休んだ方が
いいの。家より学校の方が安全だと思うから。学校ってほら大勢いるじゃない。大勢いれば変な人もトラしにくいだろうし。
まさかその男は本当に帰ってきたんじゃ。
模範囚なら刑期短縮もあり得るわ。今年は9年目、いつ町に帰ってきてもおかしくない。
はい、もしもし、春宮でございます。どうもすみません。今参ります。すみません。ごめんね、椿子。ほら、新しい冷蔵庫、業者さんが持ってきてくれたの。すぐに戻るからちょっとだけ行ってくるわね。どうする？お母さんと一緒に下に行く？
大丈夫。行ってきて。でもすぐに帰ってきて。
すぐに戻るわね。それまでゆっくり休んでて。
Miss Harumiya left Tsubakiko's room. A small truck with a refrigerator on its bay was parked outside. Miss Harumiya hurried down the stairs. An unsettling pair of eyes observed that from a nearby alley. Pedo man.
パパがお嫁さんを迎えに来たよ。
Tsubakiko heard the clatter of someone trying to open the door. She wondered if her mom was back. Clatter, clatter, clatter. Clatter, clatter. They seemed to have trouble unlocking it.
お母さん、大丈夫？鍵開けようか。
Clatter, clatter, clatter. Clatter, 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 clatter. Something wasn't right. It was like they were trying to force the lock open with the wrong key. Tsubakiko's body went numb with absolute fear. It was him. It couldn't possibly be anyone else. He must have brought a spare key to enter her room. She was sure of it. I had to call for help. No! I had to put the chain up. But going over the clattering door to put up the chain was scarier than anything else. So all she could do was stand frozen in fear. Just then, the door handle turned with a light sound and slowly opened. Tsubakiko was terrified, like an animal in its den, cornered by its vicious predator. She could only watch as the visitors showed themselves. Her voice refused to come out. She simply flapped her lips like a beach fish, because the intruder was none other than the ugly bastard known as Pedo Man. Oh shit. The man lunged forward in his dirty shoes the moment Tsubakiko tried to scream. His thick hand covered her mouth. He cunningly locked the door and the chain at some point. Oh no! Fucking hell! So fucked up, bro. What the fuck am I watching now? What the fuck? This is like written by Riki Kawahara or something. But I know this was written by Rikishi, which is equally worse. Wait, that's redundant. Why did it say equally and worse? I mean, yeah, I don't know. My brain isn't working now anymore. Oh man, what the fuck? The man pushed Tsubakiko on her bed, his hand still stifling her screams. Suzumu, we need your punching ability here. No matter how hard she struggled, Tsubakiko was no match for the man's strength and physique. How the fuck? He slowly but surely approached her face and planted his filthy lips on hers. The stench of plaque and sweat spread through her mouth, bringing back a nightmare of that day. Tsubakiko. Poor thing. Huh? Why are you saying that? I don't understand. Where is Mr. Daddy? Why did the policeman take him away? He was a bad man. A bad man. He'll pay. Honey, Honey, stop it. Stop it. Not in front of Tsubakiko. Not in front of Tsubakiko. Listen, Tsubakiko. That man was a very bad person. He did horrible things to you and called it white training. Mr. Daddy was a bad person? That's right. That's right. He tricked you into doing terrible things with him. How dare he? How dare he to do that to Tsubakiko? Tsubakiko, he'll pay. He'll pay. Wait, where's the text of that going? I'm not sure if this is intended or I don't know. Honey, stop it. Honey, stop it. Violence won't solve anything. Tsubakiko, that man tricked you. Why is it doubling? I have no idea if it's intended symbolism or it's maybe it's some sort of translation thing. Lost in translation because it was something unique in Japanese, but the moment it became English, it kind of made the text awkward. Tsubakiko slowly staggered to her feet and screamed. Her face was contorted into a face of ferocity, as it always was when she beat back her terror with rage. Regardless, however, that was her strength. Yeah, boy, here we go. Wham! The floor shook with a rumble. Dust fell from the ceiling. A giant blob was creeping down the stairs. The hideous freak of nature was him, no doubt about it. Tsubakiko's trusty metal bat had appeared in front of her, hands out of nowhere. She raised and charged it. Oh, I love this CG. Tsubakiko pummeled the blob over and over. It groaned and shook each time. Oh, this is so satisfying to watch. She struck the blob again and again with that defiant roar. However, she didn't know if her attacks were working on the towering creature. It only looked as effective as a child hitting something with a rolled up newspaper. But Tsubakiko didn't lose heart. Her fighting spirit blazed fierce as ever. The blob's disgusting face, shape, was this obese stomach she'd seen back then, when her eyes only reached up to that level. It only looked this big to her because of the impression it left when she saw it that day. Tsubakiko's valiant assault continued when she saw the abhorrent blob. Anyone who knew what pain she suffered through would tear up at the valiant struggle she mustered. It was a sign of how much she'd grown. Unfortunately, reality wasn't so kind. Her swings grew slower with time as she gasped for air. She had no choice but to accept her attacks were ineffective. Seizing the chance, long tongues like tentacles extended over the blob's obese stomach and ensnared the bat. He swallowed it in the blink of an eye, crunching loudly on the metal. Oh. Oops, I'm sorry. Man. Let me finish this whole thing. And let me get to sleep. Oh my god. The blob's roar and foul breath startled Subakiko. Just then, it charges her like a giant toad. She was overwhelmed by its vast size in the blink of an eye. Subakiko fought hard, but she had no way of resisting the giant blob leaning over her. No matter how hard she struggled, it only drilled home that she was powerless against the blob. Her body was giving out faster than her heart. She continued cursing as she fought to keep her spirit from yielding. The blob's drool dripped on her face, and as the hideous creature's lips and tongue desecrated her own without reserve, she heard her heart shatter. Subakiko shed bitter tears. She shut her eyes and mouth, a small bit of resistance against the man licking her face over and over again. As much as she hated to admit it, she knew she didn't stand a chance against an adult. A man. Him. She tried to act tough, but she was a little more than a doll to an adult man. So all she could do was be a doll until he was done playing with her. She couldn't stop weeping for the pain and sorrow of having her very autonomy denied. Eventually, the blob stepped back and picked her up. She couldn't resist no further. After all, she was already a doll. Oh, I like that change. Her change from Kurokami to her. It's amazing. Her limbs had become ball jointed at some point. The blob bent her joints and played with her like the doll she was. After this, he played with her in those filthy adult ways, just like back then. If she was destined to feel such pain, then she wished her heart could have been the same as it was that day. That innocent day when she believed that she would become a wonderful wife someday if she put up with his training. If she was still as innocent, then it wouldn't have hurt nearly as badly. Call him Daddy. Her fate was to be the wife of this hideous monster. Yeah, boy.
君は無力なんかじゃない。君は本当に強いよ。
すずむ、どこなの？助けて、助けて。
助けるのは僕じゃない。キコちゃん、君の力で己を救うんだ。
Suzumu had suddenly appeared in this crazy world. Though he looked the same as always, he had this nearly divine aura about him. His eyes blazed scarlet and glared at the blob with conviction. Oh, I like his muscle is flexing.
お前に名乗る名など僕は持ち合わせない。喋るな。お前の邪悪にヘドが出る。
Though Suzumu was the smaller one, he was clearly intimidating the blob.
お前の正体は分かっている。だからもうのさばるな。
The blob moaned and shrunk back. Now free, Tsubakiko staggered to her feet.
進む。
チコちゃん、君にはできる。そいつを倒せる。
無理だよ。弱な私の力じゃ大人には、男には。
そいつは大人でも男でもない。人間でもない。お前には存在さえない。お前などただ通り過ぎるだけで形を失う煙。なぜならお前はお前はすでに2年前獄中で病死しているじゃないか。
Whoa! This is like some golden truth bullshit! This is the power of golden truth. This is like Umedeka all over again. The blob screamed and wailed. Blisters appeared all over its body and ruptured one after another, like it was being burned from the inside. Faced with the fact that it no longer existed, the blob collapsed, unable to maintain its form.
キコちゃん、その男はすでに存在しない。二度と君を悲しませることはない。できないんだ。
Was already dead.
君の心の傷を具現化し、再び君を苦しめようとする悪意が取ったかりそめの姿に過ぎない。君なら乗り越えられる。僕はキコちゃんの力を知っている。キコちゃん、今こそ悪夢を叩き潰して君の手で打ち勝つんだ。
Tsubakiko realized she was no longer a doll. The metal bat was lying at her feet.
てめえ、もう死んでるのかよ。
Oh, I love that. I love her voice actress being. You can feel her gaining her being so angry.
私の前に二度と現れられねえのかよ。笑えら。じゃあ私は意もしない男が現れるのにビビってたってのかよ。バカにしやがって。
I love this.
この野郎。
Oh, I'm liking Tsubakiko's route. Tsubakiko's rage revived her fighting spirit. Things were different this time around. Each time Tsubakiko swung the bat, the blob was smashed. It groaned and retreated. Tsubakiko smote the blob with righteous indignation, and all the sorrow and anguish from all those years back surged forth with every swing. Eventually, a man's head poked up from the crushed blob. It was the same man from Tsubakiko's nightmares.
私は素敵なお嫁さんになるんだ。その夢、お前なんかに終わらされて。
やめてやめて。
滑舌悪いんだよ、クソデブ。てめえ消えろ。食らってぶちまけて撃つやがれ。血まみれ天女特攻隊長春宮椿子、てめえにこの一撃をくれてやら。
I love this. I love her badass. The blob burst into light the moment the bat smashed into the man's forehead. Tsubakiko fell to her knees like a stringless puppet. Having defeated her trauma with her own hands, she fell deep into a sea of sleep. Its waters enveloped her gently and affectionately. Just then, a figure with antlers emerged from the light. Oh no! She was defeated, the antlers version of herself. The divine curse was beside herself. Not even she could have imagined Tsubakiko overcoming the manifestation of her mental trauma by her own hands.
恐ろしい男。
感謝する。君のおかげでキコちゃん、心の傷を自ら乗り越える機会が得られた。あの化け物を僕の手でなく彼女自身の手で倒す機会を与えてくれたことを僕は感謝する。
お前は今この場で消さねば必ずや我らの悲願の邪魔になる。
The divine curse raised her hands, and a giant hatchet appeared with radiant light. Its thick blade alone was as tall as Suzumu. But Suzumu wasn't afraid. Quite contrary, his face brimmed with gratitude towards the divine curse.
感謝を込めて神に奉じる。
Suzumu slowly raised his fists and made his dedication. Dazzling light gradually gathered in their fists.
我らの悲願、兄上様のご無念を晴らすこと。邪魔立てはさせぬぞ、鈴原鈴夢、陸奥の末裔。
覇者検証、邪悪を破りて正しきを示す。
死ね
That was so cool. It totally felt like an Umineko moment. You know, the kind where Furuta Erica fucks up is completely blown away by Battler, by the blue truth, by the golden truth or something, or Dolanora. That's an awesome moment, man. Afterwards, Kiko was suspended from school for 3 days as punishment for fighting the delinquents. However, those days were no doubt peaceful for her. As for why, Miss Hinagata came to her door with a copy of a document proving the man had grown ill in prison and died. That single sheet of paper set her free from the pain that had festered in her heart the last 9 years.
今日はありがとうございます。これでキコちゃんも安心できると思います。
最近は犯罪者の人権にもうるさいからね。この書類手に入れるの苦労したのよ。
その会話絶対にあったと思います。
そうね。彼女の心の傷が紙切れ1枚で癒せるなら本当にお安いご用だわ。明日から投稿
A scraps of paper.
大丈夫そう？
Did you bribe them?
大丈夫だと思います。 でも喧嘩騒ぎのことでみんなが噂してないか気にしてますね。
まああっけないくらいみんなもう噂なんかしてないしね。
The fight was the talk of the school when it happened, but those who hadn't seen it themselves found it hard to believe a single girl had beaten all those delinquents entirely on their own. What's more, said delinquents had kept quiet on the matter too, embarrassed to admit they had been trounced by a girl. The rumor mill had stopped grinding in just 3 days. After all, no one would believe such a dainty girl with dreams of becoming a perfect wife was actually the former leader of the Bloodstained Angels attack squad. Besides, Natsu and I had done some work of our own, so Kiko could return to school in peace. The afternoon air was crisp. Kiko dropped by as I was practicing in the yard. Her face was bright, as if the heavy load had been lifted from her shoulders.
いい顔してるね。
I like how the drawing in her cardigan is like, you know, it's a torikago bird cage. Sorry, the first thing that went through my head is the Japanese word, not the English word. That's a nice smile you got there.
気分のいい夢を見たから。
どんな夢？
ちょっと乱暴な夢だから内緒。
I'm surprised he was able to punch the evil spirit within her.
でもすっごいスカッとした。久々に晴れ晴れとした気持ち。
それはよかった。
ねえ、スズム。
なんだい？
あの日さ、スズムが言ってくれた言葉。
Oh, it's 4 o'clock. Let me end this.
お前ごときにキコちゃんをお嫁にやれるものか。
そんなことを言っちゃったかな。あの時は僕も勢いでつい。
Really?
すっごい嬉しかった。スズムの私を守るって気持ち、すっごい温かくて。
照れるな。
私さ、素敵なお嫁さんになるって夢、また叶えようとしてもいいんだよね。
もちろんさ。ただのお嫁さんじゃない。素敵なお嫁さんだよ。キコちゃんがお嫁に行くときは必ず僕がチェックするよ。キコちゃんを素敵なお嫁さんにできる相手かどうかをしっかりね。
嬉しいな。ありがとう、スズム。いや、これは喜んじゃいけない。
Yeah, Subakiko, you're right to feel bad. It's basically he didn't get it. Kiko furrowed her eyebrows, where her face was all smiles. After Kiko returned to school for the first time in days, she was swarmed by her classmates. Her eyes went wide with confusion.
何？おはようみんな。噂聞いたわよ。椿子、ムカつく不良グループをやっつけたんだって。
いつも駐輪場でためろってるドキュンどもをフルボッコにしたそうじゃ。マジ超強え。
何しろ春宮はグレート硬派だからな。不良どもには容赦がねえ。
あの駐輪場にいつもいる連中、感じ悪くて嫌だったのよね。
春宮がやっつけてくれてからあいつらすっかりおとなしくなったらしいぜ。
Natsu and I spread rumors while Kiko was absent. The delinquents had gotten in a fight with Kiko after she warned them to quit messing with others, and she wiped the floor with all of them. Those rumors had reached the delinquents too, of course, but they hadn't said anything. It was only natural they probably didn't want to get mixed with Kiko again after she put them through. She hadn't imagined in her wildest dreams that she received a hero's welcome. Embarrassed, she declined everyone's badgering for details of her heroic tale and sat herself down. Thanks to Miss Hinagata's careful machinations, Kiko's reputation remained mostly intact with the teachers too. Kiko owned it all to her positive behavior so far. Psychological episodes and sudden outbursts were not uncommon during adolescence. Kiko's episode would likely be chalked up as one of those and be quietly forgotten. Fortunately, it didn't seem like the delinquents were badly hurt either. I feel a little bad for them, but at least we could put the whole thing behind us. All's well that ends well.
肉眼の長いお勤めお疲れ様でやんした。
春宮先輩の武勇伝、1年生の間でも有名でしたよ。男子なんか舎弟にしてもらいたいとか、姉子と呼ばせてもらいたいとか、大した浮かれようで。
かわいい顔してやるもんだね。
みんなもそれくらいにしてあげて。本人は気にしてるんだから。
もうみんなに散々言われて慣れたというか諦めたというか。
俺たちもこれからは春宮のこと姉子って呼ぼうぜ。
いやだ、もう一度姉子言うたらドタマ勝ち割るぞこら。
姉子堪忍を
言ったな、ぬっ殺す祭る血祭るぞ熱田夏也。
Kiko's face was shitty as she chased Tatsu around the
アイドル
room.
だったら喧嘩騒ぎとか下手すると命取りなんですけどね。春宮先輩の場合逆にポイントアップしててなんだか羨ましいです。
そんなので羨ましがられたくないよ。
3年の男子でもキコチンに惚れたって言ってるの結構いるよ。特に空手部とか柔道部とかバトル系の連中が仲良しになりたいなって。
雨降ってなんとやらですね。先輩の下駄箱がラブレターでいっぱいになるのも時間の問題だったりして、
その中の誰か一人を選ぶまで男たちにたくさん言い寄られるね。
グレートだね、モテモテだぜ。
その中にきっとヒコちゃんを素敵なお嫁さんにしてくれる人がいるんじゃないかな。
Ow! Coming for
仕事
Suzu.
なんだか。私をお嫁にやれるかどうかはスズムがしっかり判断することなんだから。
そうなの？
でもスズムのお眼鏡にかなうような人じゃないと、とてもじゃないけどスズムには紹介できないよ。私の彼氏になるのはちょっとハードかもだね。
スズム以上の男か。
ハードル高いどころの話じゃないですね。
ヒコちゃん、そんなこと言ってたらお嫁さんに行けなくなっちゃうんじゃない？
God damn it! He's so dense.
そうかな。そうかもだね。スズムのハードルが高すぎるせいで私が今季を逃したら
Oh, I like it. She's trying to turn this
か
around.
もだね。
そんな僕のせいにされちゃうの？
おいおい春宮、グレートスサーラにだって素敵なお嫁さんを探す権利があるんだぜ。
校庭にウルトラレアカードが落ちてない？
なんだと？どこに？どこ？
And he throws her. I do it right when Natsuya tried to leave from the window to the schoolyard. Oh my god! Oh my god! Tsubakiko grabbed Suzumu a bit roughly and planted a kiss on his lips. Kanariria and Suzumu himself were wide eyed with a shock.
スズムには素敵なお嫁さんを探す権利なんて必要ないの。私が今予約しちゃったから。
でも僕より素敵な人が現れるかもよ。
全身全霊をかけてそんな人は生涯現れないし、もし現れても
見せつけてくれちゃうね。
鈴原先輩より素敵な人が現れないという点には同意します。でも鈴原先輩にとって春宮先輩より素敵な人が現れないとは限りませんからね。
そうそう、年上の女房は銀のわらじを履いてでも探せって言うしね。
I like how there's gonna have more things going on.
現役アイドルが一般男性と結婚なんてよくあることですしね。
Oh. Tsubakiko punched her palm with a daring smirk.
祀られてえか命知らずが。春宮椿子、てめえらの喧嘩買ってやら
Oh, I like the middle ground version of her. Wait, why is it like a credit scene? What the hell? Did they miss something? It can't be over, right? Because how am I gonna see their Murakami ending? Oh, there you go. Here you go. Because I was wondering. And now she is gone from existence.
そなたの無念とすす我
Yep. Yep.
すす原鈴むめ我ら神の呪いは打ち
I think I'm gonna do this in the reverse order. Like, the next one is Ruriya, and then the last one is Sanae.
そなたらはそれでもやはりあれのすすを望むのか
The pair exchanged looks amidst the heavy silence.
無論でございます、姉上様。
Their eyes glowed scarlet.
無論あれのすすを得ればすべてをすすだくとの約束もちろん守る我は災いを下す者が誰であっても構わぬ兄上様のご無念が慰められるのならば So the next route for me is Ruriya's.
Then the last one is Kanai's. Just like how they introduce. Just, you know.
だがあれは手強い陸奥の末裔侮るなかれ
Her sisters nodded, their lips curved into fearless smiles. So I felt something alien fall from her chest to her abdomen. It was like a fist-sized stone had been jammed directly into her stomach. The pain, like her body was full of stones, had increased yet again, signaling her destruction was nigh. The 1,000-year curse wouldn't stay sealed for long. But if so, then for what reason had she suffered all these years? At least, if she died with a calamity still sealed within her, she would have had something to show for all her suffering, however small. It was under the belief her countless souls had suffered and died over the past millennium. That cycle, hell is finally reaching its conclusion. No, its ruin. The quadruplet spell was gone. There was no longer any way to postpone the curse. It was as though she and all her past selves had only lived to bring about the calamity in this era. Just then, a distant memory of long ago flashed through Toei's mind. A memory of the will left behind by the mother who died giving birth to her. Knowing the daughter she'd never see would inherit her suffering, her mother had left behind a letter as an apology. Toei believed she would do the same if ever she became pregnant. There was another letter that came with the will. The second part was in a sealed envelope and read thus: "Read this only when you can no longer bear the stones in your stomach." Her mother had foreseen this. She predicted the day when the sooth-sealing spell broke would not be far off. The sound of Suzumu punching the straw wrapped the tree resounded over and over again. Once he had punched with eyes open, seeking earnestness, but it was a bit different now. His eyes squinted and a bit out of focus. However, he wasn't slacking on his training. His fist was so dedicated to God in gratitude. To dedicate an offering to God meant committing to the flames. If it were that case, then it was an offering, not an act of throwing into the fire that was important. Same went for the divine tribute style. What mattered was not the act of punching, but offering thanks to God. Punching was a way to offer dedication to God, but the punch itself was not the thing dedicated. Suzumu now felt he understood a little what his father had taught him. True, the divine tribute style involved punching. It could never be perfected by anyone merely trusting his fists. Hajakensho, crush evil and demonstrate the righteous path. Those words have been passed down since ancient times through the Suzuhara divine tribute style.
邪悪を破りて正しきを示す。そしてそれがなされることに感謝する。
That was its spirit. Fists were nothing more than a way to create that. Until he reached the essence of the divine tribute style. And once he did, he could save everyone suffering from the hauntings. He had defeated a divine curse that other day. Perhaps it was a fluke. Perhaps it was coincidence. But he felt like he attained something at that moment. Perhaps he had, but he would attain more.
Set!
Oh, this is nice. Anyway, that's it for today's stream. I don't know when I'm going to continue. But the next one will be Ruria. Just like how they were introduced. Kanae was first, then Ruria, then... oh my god, my brain is dead. How do we... yeah. So next is Ruria. But we're going to do that later, so... Yeah, maybe I'll do this as a before dinner thing, and I'll do Elden Ring after dinner. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed watching, and I'll see you guys later. Ciao.